friend called Kea. Kea is a Black American. She's here all the way. She's born in America. All her lineage is in America. She's not a Kenyan at all. But she is leading a concept of Black Americans coming back home to Africa. And they are coming in big numbers to invest here. They are coming through our churches to invest in Kenya and to come back home where they were stolen. And they start living again in Africa. She's there. I know through your office or indigence of Kitonga, she can secure for an appointment and give you the concept she has. We as the church, you already heard her, and we know it's something worth listening and worth investing in.
This year, blessing, money, testimony. Go to follow, you they go.
All right. Welcome to Pan-African Perspectives, where we dive into the real life experiences of visiting Africa, moving to the continent of Africa, investing in African ventures, and buying land, all with the ultimate goal of advancing Africa and restoring it to its rightful place on the world stage. As you know, our mission is to support independent Africa and empower African people on the continent or in the diaspora. Whether you're currently living in Africa, you've recently migrated, your ancestors were trafficked during the transatlantic slave trade, you're a foundational Black American, however you identify, this live stream is for you. As you can see, today we have a special guest who actually is from Kenya. So there was a mistake stated there. Her lineage is directly coming from Kenya, and we are going to speak to her in a moment. But before we do, of course, as always, I like to do introductions. My name is Joe Hatagwa. I am a Sierra Leonean American who just spent the last 4 years living in West Africa. Today's guest is Kea Waukesha Simmons, who has helped over 200 people visit the continent of Africa. Multiple families move to Africa, and she helps people invest in businesses as well. A large part of her focus is in Kenya, but she is all about bringing folks to the continent. So without further ado, let me bring on Kea. Kea, what's up? How are you? I think you're muted.
Good. I was trying to chop down some fruits, but I am good. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And so we've had Kea on before. Being in the military, visiting all the different countries, you've been all over the world. And then you talked about your business, bringing people to the continent of Africa and traveling all over the world as well through Traverze culture. And then we had some discussions about what you did at the end of last year. And I've been following a little bit here and there, but I think today's discussion should be about all the changes. You told me today you are in the States, but temporarily for now because you're planning to move to Kenya. So I want to get into all of that. But is there anything about the group? So there's a lot of new people that'll be joining. Anything about you that you want to mention to the group in terms of what Traverze culture does and what your mission is all about personally?
Yeah. So once again, thank you, Joe. I always like talking with you. So thank you for having me on this magnificent platform. So as you said, my name is Kea Waukesha Simmons. I took on my Kenyan name that was given to me about 13 years ago. And when you were playing that clip, my team till this day tease me when he says that I'm not a Kenyan at all. Now, let me correct, there is truth in that. Now, my DNA came back Kenyan. But I got to represent where I'm from. I'm actually from Charleston, South Carolina, Gullah Geechee culture. We have a rich culture right here in the Low Country. So I am from Charleston, South Carolina, Gullah Geechee culture, but our DNA actually came back Kenyan, and I think it was 27.7% Kenyan, but we're actually 33% Nigerian of Isan and like 13% Benin. But yes, so I'm proud to be a Black American and also connected to the continent, if you will. I am the CEO and founder of Traverze Culture. We are a travel concierge company that specializes in humanitarian work, business development, relocation assistance, and real estate development, as well as travel. And now we're into medical tourism. We are registered here in the States, and then our international hub is in Nairobi, Kenya, where I have employees, between 6 to 12 employees there in Kenya. Yes.
Nice. And so, you mentioned medical tourism. I do want to get into that because I saw some videos that you did on that. And this is something that is very much needed for the continent and for us Americans too. I mean, look, if you're thinking about it, like, it is very expensive to get medical treatment. I mean, you guys might remember at the Olympics, one of our athletes, one of the American athletes, got a pap smear and got a mammogram and all the things at the Olympic Village because of the cost associated with those services in the United States. So not only Americans could utilize, this medical tourism, but also other people across the continent. And we see that from all of the African leaders who travel to different countries or take their kids to different countries for medical treatment. They almost always never get it done in their own countries. And the fact that I think Kenya has the second best on the continent, if I'm not mistaken, was that what that was? I saw. Yeah, off of memory. So, yeah. But I did see that. So, that's really important. I do want to get to that. But first, let's start with this, which I know we're starting backwards, but you are moving to Kenya.
Yes.
You're moving to Kenya. So how did that come to be? So you're in America. You're about to sell your house. If I don't know if you're saying that publicly. So I guess I just said that. But so talk to us about how you got to that point. I mean, you had this business bringing people to the continent. You've been going back and forth. As we just saw, you were introduced through that church, through the president. You've also met with PLO Lumumba and many other African leaders since being on the continent. And you've obviously been featured on many different news stations. I've seen it all over Kenya and other parts of the continent. But that doesn't explain why you're deciding to move. So I'd love to hear from you. What got you to the point that you're deciding to move from the US to Kenya?
Yeah. So I wish I could literally show you my for sale sign outside of my office. So I'm an empty nester. My son just started college, first year of college. He's doing great. He's safe. He's okay. And this has been a long journey. I've been going to Kenya for 13 years. So this was inevitable to happen anyway. And then doing the business there for the last 6 years, what I've been noticing every time I come back to the States, I lose momentum or I'm not as hands in as I need to be. Now, don't get me wrong. I have an amazing team on the ground that pretty much runs Traverze Culture Africa. So I have two entities. I have Traverze Culture here in the States and Traverze Culture Africa in Kenya. And they do an amazing job. But I think that, I know by being there on the ground, I'm able to represent a portion of people that my team may not be able to represent or convey the message completely. If you've been watching, we got our YouTube channel going and popping a little bit now. All of the people that we recently just relocated to Kenya, my team has done it solely on their own. But I know that if I'm there on the ground, we can get so much done if I'm there with my team.
Absolutely. And I'm sure you can give the American context, right, for those folks who are making that move. I myself, as you all know, I moved to West Africa back in 2020, and I did not have, I kind of had that. My next door neighbor who hadn't come back yet from the pandemic was the one who introduced me to my housekeeper, talked me through, the different apps I could use for dry cleaning and where I could get my laundry done. And there are a number of different things that are hard to kind of transition into doing when you move to a new city, nonetheless a new country with a different culture and a different process. So I think it's awesome that you're helping people relocate. And of course, since you'll be there, you'll also be able to give that additional context of this app is this app here. If you're used to using Amazon, maybe use Jumia or whatever that might look like for context on the ground. I used to work at Jumia, so I know Jumia operates in Kenya. and Bolt and Uber and all those things. Okay, so you made the decision to move, partially, I'm sure, because of business reasons, as you mentioned. And you also mentioned losing momentum. One of the things that I found when I was moving is that I felt like I had a renewed sense of purpose every time I went to the continent. And when I came back to the United States, I felt like my cup was it was replenished going away, and then it was depleting when I got to the States, right? And I don't know how to describe that feeling except the way I just did. But can you talk about, outside of the business aspect, right, just for your own personal being, what it has been like for you? As you mentioned, you've been going for 13 years, but I think last year you probably spent the most time, I would imagine, in Kenya. So what was that experience for you last year? And did that at all push, like, outside of the business side, but the personal side, did that at all push you to this move?
Yeah, it did. So yeah, you're right. I spent 6 months out of the year last year. So I started like the 6 months on, 6 months off. That's where it started, right? I was okay, I can just do 6 months there, 6 months here. And then being there, I got so much done. And even though there were stressful moments, it's different than being stressed here. I was able to jump in the vehicle because I drive in them Nairobi streets, and just ride up the street when I'm having a stressful moment and don't have to worry about any craziness happening. I just drive on the road and meditate and just look at the beautiful green grass and things of that nature. And it's just a different vibe. Even when I'm working and living there, it's just different. Don't get me wrong, the States will always be home. I'm appreciative of it, but I do feel better when I'm in Kenya. So I'm like, I think I should just go ahead and move, at least for now. We don't know what the future may hold, but right now I definitely need to be in Kenya permanently.
Absolutely. And so on that note, right? So, I mean, we touched on it a bit. You mentioned that you do tours. You also help people relocate. I do want to talk a little bit about the relocation services because, I think a lot of people offer relocation services, and it's hard to understand why someone would use something like this if you've never made the move. I tried as best as I can to share with people when I moved to the continent how difficult that transition was. But can you speak to some of the things that you help people with as they transition, moving from the West to the continent of Africa, or the global North, whatever people want to call it these days? But what is that like? Like, what services are you offering, and how are you helping people make that transition?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm telling you, to your point, people are getting ate up left and right with trying to relocate to the continent because, one, they're subscribing to repatriation and you are from the Americas. And the only reason why I bring that up, because that can be quite dangerous. That's me saying that. I don't subscribe to it because you skip all of the necessary steps you need to take when relocating. And what I try to do is explain to people that relocation is a luxury, number one. And two, it's a mindset. If you think you are running from something, it's going to follow you because it's a mindset. So that's the first thing, is educating people on relocating, whether it's the continent or anywhere else in the world. The second thing is you need to find a country that is conducive to your lifestyle. You also need to know the back history and where that country stands right now. So you need to know the history. You need to know the social awareness, political climate, economy, everything that's going on. That's number two. Number three, budgeting. A lot of people are looking at people on the YouTube channel, and because they move and now they provide a service, they want to give you and they haven't shared any of the mistakes, money lost, anything that they went through before they started providing you a service. The difference between Traverse Culture and those people are, we are a company. I'm not moving to Kenya and providing a service. We're already providing a service that's based on the customer. So let me get into what we offer. So we do door-to-door service, meaning we pick you up at your house in the States or Canada or Europe and take you to the airport and pick you up from Nairobi and take you to your transitional housing. The first thing that we do, we have to qualify whether you qualify for a visa. Immigration is the biggest piece that people tend to just forget or overlook or don't care about. But essentially, those things will catch up with you as well. Budgeting. Ghana and Kenya are two different places.
Yes.
Nairobi, Kenya is probably one of the most expensive cities in Africa. Okay, so when you're moving to Kenya, you can't compare the cost of living in Ghana with Kenya, right? Their regulations are completely different. So before we even get started, I have to see if you qualify to relocate. I have disqualified people who weren't financially ready. They did not qualify for the permits in the country and so on and so forth, right? So we also do household goods. I know a lot of people are concerned about, okay, if you're going to sell your house, you still have significant things that you want to keep and you want to ship to the continent. You doing it on your own, trust me, you're going to lose money. All right. And so what we have already done is we already have our vendors who we use Kenya to ship household goods. Now, transitional housing. Kenya may not be your end all be all. It may be just a great entry point. We will not permanently move you to any country without you being there for 30 days minimum. You have to do at least 60 days of our program in order to make sure that we can transition you, to make sure that you can make a decision once you get on the ground, if Kenya is the place, and then we can extend it out to our 120-day program. What else is included? We do driver's lessons. I know a lot of people move to the continent and don't drive. I get that they drive crazy, but you do know that Uber and Bolt over time adds up. As well as getting to know the country intimately by driving. So for those who are interested in purchasing cars, we help you with that. I'll be purchasing my car as soon as I get on the ground because I do drive in those streets. Permanent housing. Once you hit the end of our 30 and 45-day program, we go through an assessment with our guest or our client. And we assessed a few things that we think the client may or may not need moving forward. We also suggest any immigration needs that they may need to live in the country legally. And then we go forward with possibly putting them in permanent housing. And we provide 12 locations, all in-house, to show you whether it's a high-rise apartment building, a bungalow, which we call ranch-style homes here, a townhouse, whatever it is that you need, we make sure that we walk you through it, but very hands-in. The next most important thing is healthcare. You may be healthy now, but if something happened, you need to be in a country that has sustainable healthcare and affordable healthcare and a healthcare system that you can trust. And so we've partnered with 3 hospitals in Kenya where we provide a VIP healthcare service for you with those hospitals. We walk you through it. You do a tour with the head doctor of the hospitals. And we also provide health insurance while you're there. So those are just a little bit. I can continue going, but we have a very robust 120-day relocation integration program.
That's really dope. I mean, I keep going back to my own personal experience because I think many people here followed that, and I didn't have any of that, right? So there was no rhyme or reason or system. I just moved, which is why I'm back in the States right now. So I think that there was a couple things that you mentioned that I thought were really, really important. First of all, qualifying the person to make sure they qualify to move. I think that was hugely important. I love that you do that, making sure that they're in the country 30 days before they relocate. The housing, the permits, the papers, the driving lessons, healthcare, partnering with the three hospitals. I also love what you do in terms of that like concierge service that feels a lot like your travel trips, right? Where you talked about some of the things that you do. I know that's what you're known for. First of all, picking people up at their homes, taking them to the airport, then picking people up at the airport when they arrive and taking them to their transitional housing is huge. That is the smoothest possible transition to moving anywhere. You take all the guesswork out of it and you just allow people to just kind of get in and move. A ton of different things. I thought that was all awesome. Now, I know that there are some people who aren't fully ready to even just to move yet. Right. But I wanted to start on that process because you made the move. And so I thought it'd be interesting to talk through that. But I'd love to talk about the business that you had even longer, which is helping people visit the continent of Africa and other parts of the world. Yep. Can we talk about Traverze culture? And not only are you helping people visit the continent, but there are many elements to what you're doing with these trips, right? And these trips have a lot of interesting things. I know there's real estate elements. There are all kinds of other things. So I'd love for you to talk about what comes along with the trips that you do when people do come to any of the destinations that you're going to.
Thank you. I love that you said it that way, because I had a consultation today with a lady who's interested in relocating to Kenya, and we were just walking through some scenarios. And by the end of the conversation, my last advice to her was, let's get you travel first. Let's get you there first before you even, because you've never been. So I'm not trying to push my product onto you. I want you to be able to make a decision on your own, right? So yes, our travel experience is where we started. I love providing concierge services through our travel. So right now we offer travel experiences in Panama, Belize, and Kenya. Kenya being our our headquarters, our international headquarters. But in all of our travel experiences, we do offer international flights that's already in the package. All of your accommodation, 4-star, 5-star accommodation. We offer a signature marketplace as well as a signature business orientation. Now, I want to talk about that a little bit, because that goes to what you were saying in regards to it being a different experience, because we don't sell vacations. I'm going to tell y'all that right now. We don't sell vacations. We sell experiences so that you are able to look at investing, relocating, and traveling. All right. Yeah. And so in our business orientation, we do go over business opportunities as well as relocation opportunities, investment opportunities, and now medical tourism. We do that on the second day that you arrive. We created what we call a signature marketplace. What we found as we were taking people around the continent, around the world, like we went to Senegal. I did business in Senegal for about 3 years. And what I saw was when people are landing on the continent and they're super excited and they just want to enjoy, they don't want to be haggled when they go into the souvenir shop or on the strip to buy things. My sister. So what we did to take that away from your first experience on the ground, we bring the marketplace to you, set it up at the hotel where our guests will be staying. Because we specialize in group travel, we typically have 20 or more people on the trip. And so we'll have the shoe cobbler. We have the jewelry maker there. We have all of our seamstress there, because we also do tailored African outfits so that we can wear at our end of the trip farewell dinner in Mombasa. But we do all of that, and then we do an orientation to familiarize you with the area. Then during that orientation, we do a small presentation on the opportunities you can have in Kenya through this travel experience. Okay. And then we do have that humanitarian portion. Everywhere we go around the world, we implement Traverze Cares. It is our CSR work that we do in all of the countries, and in all of our experience, the clients or the guests are very hands-in with literally purchasing food, clothes, shoes right then and there, and able to give it to the kids themselves. So you see where your donation go, you see where your money go. It's very hands-in, not top down, but top up. Okay. Then we have the real estate portion. We do implement the real estate tour. Whether you want to relocate or invest, we're able to kind of show you in real time what that looked like. We did launch a project where we were building a luxury estate. We are still on track to do that. We had to pause this year, but we will be relaunching next year with our real estate company, Pineville Homes. And so we also take people out there to see our project that we're going to be working on 2025 in Kenya with the luxury homes that we'll be building. So you have a robust portfolio options, if you will, through the experience. And then lastly is the leisure part. On our 7-day tour, we go to the capital city of Nairobi. We go to the best restaurants in the city. You're staying at the best hotels in the city, luxury, okay? And then you're going to Mombasa, the coastal area, where you're staying at a 5-star resort with a private beach, a infinity pool with an outside bar. Come on, forget about it. You can't find anything on the internet where you can get business and leisure combined together and see where that benefits you.
Absolutely. And as someone who's spoken to many folks who do trips to the continent, I've also been on a few. That is a rarity. So a couple things. One, I love the fact that you guys are building an estate. One, because then people can just build, you can buy directly from you. I will say this. I've seen a lot of different travel companies and they do one or two of the things that you do. Generally, there are different companies you have to go to for these different things. Like if you want to relocate to Ghana, I have a consulting service that help people do that, but it's very much like you choose your own path. It's not all done for you, right? And so, I think that's an important thing. As someone who operates helping people do that, it's like one-offs. Like you want a permit, you want a license, you want this. It's like it's not like all of those things. And many people that I talk to who offer those kinds of services don't offer all of this. So I thought that was really interesting that you're building, and then you're also showing other real estate projects as well. And I love with the CSR arm, that's an important piece because most people don't offer that as part of going on any of these trips. And then seeing where your money is going directly is hugely important. I think there are a lot of people that are skeptical about the continent of Africa for good and bad reasons. And I think the fact that you can see where your money is going is super important. There were two questions along the same lines from two different people that I wanted to share with you. I'm sure the answer is to sign up for a consultation, but you have Georgetta is asking, do you have a link or do you give advice to people who are retired?
Yeah, so you're right. That will go to the formal consultation that we do have on our website, which is Traverze.com. That's Tango Victor Echo Romeo Zulu Echo.com. I'm ex-military.
I was about to say, shout out to the ex-military.
Y'all see it back here.
And you got the camouflage on.
I do. But we do advise you, we assist you. We do a little more than advising. And let me tell you why I don't like doing referral relocation. That's just me. One, no, because I'm not controlling. Because of my military background, I like to know it's more of a quality control. I like to know that if I send you to a vendor, you're going to get what I promise you're going to get. In order for me to make sure that happens, I just need to go ahead and cut out the middleman and be the person to do it for you, but walk you through it so that you're educated along the way. And so, yes, we'll be able to advise you, but there's only so much that I'll be able to advise you on without saying, hey, we already provide that. You don't have to go through all of that. We already do that. And then to add to her question, our last two families we relocated, and you guys can go to our YouTube channel, Traverze Culture, and actually see us relocating them. They were retired. So we process the immigration visa, which is the ordinary residential visa, the K visa for you. We do everything for you. You don't have to do anything but show up. That's it. And we walk you through the whole thing.
Fair. So we have a gentleman named Samuel Traveler who's looking to pitch you on his services. So where can he find you? And look, Solomon Kane's asking, where's the contact information? So where can people reach out to you directly, whether they want to do a consultation and or want to be one of the vendors you work with?
Yeah, so it's at tverse.com. Go straight to our website. When you go to the website, you can either email info@tverse.com or admin. It'll go straight to my PA. You can even WhatsApp us through the website. It will go straight to my PA in Kenya, and she will respond as soon as possible.
Okay, and I was trying to pull it up quickly while we were talking because
go ahead and pull it up. Pull it up.
You were just going through it so well. So yeah, so this is the site, right? So here there's a bunch of different info here. So the email address is here, the number is here. So the website is I don't even know the military verbiage, but TVERZE. You see it here in the browser, and if you just click on contact, it'll take you directly here. So you can either submit a form, but it's probably better to go through one of these two options here.
Yes,
so
if they want the services, if you go up to our services for the relocation, the drop down, there you go. Boom, right there. And you can, and it tells you about the program, what we do, and you can book your consultation right there.
Boom, there it is. Okay, cool. And so another question, which I think would be better answered probably from a consultation, but from a high level, people who fall into this range, do you have any high level thoughts without giving away everything? If someone has these kinds of questions, I possess advanced degrees, I have military experience, I have a host of technical certifications, I also possess an annual residual income of about 50K, which is great because most people don't even make that full-time working. So that's cool. Right. With that in mind, he says, am I safe? Or I'm sorry, they say, am I safe?
You're beyond safe. You're beyond safe with that. If that's residual income, you're the best client I would love to work with because you make our job super easy and you're going to really, really enjoy the transition.
And I will say, as someone who's made the move to the continent much earlier than my my retirement age, I will say that moving to the continent and looking for work is not the easiest of things to do. I think a lot of people think that you have a lot of experience in the US and that it might be just easy to move to the continent. People are very well educated in different areas of the places you want to live. They have more education than you and have the local context and experience. And it is very difficult to make that move. I got lucky because I knew the CEO of Jumia, well, I knew someone who knew them. And so that was why I was able to get that job within 3 months. That is not typical for most people to move to the continent. And I struggled, by the way, in that job, which you guys watched those videos on. It was very difficult to be able to, because I'm not Ghanaian. So, you know, culturally, it was different. They speak a different language than I speak. Their pidgin is even different from Sierra Leoneans' Creole. And so I struggled with it, even though I had a job. And by the way, the income wasn't so great. So I do think it's important to take all those things into consideration and talk to someone like Kea before, Waukesha, I should say, before you decide to make a move like this. So I think that information was all helpful, and I think you answered some of these people's questions. Great questions. Oh, look at Kea getting in there on the comments. So I will say, we come a long way since the first live stream. Let me say.
Yeah.
So you know, we did do an interview a little over a year and about a year ago, and you know, there was you know, at that time I don't think you were even planning to move as of yet, but you did have a program at the end of last year, and the way I was always describing it was like the year of return, but instead of focusing on Afro Nation and Afrofusion and all these different things, it really was more focused on the key elements, the 7 pillars that in Ghana they focus on, but nobody knew about those, right? And I always felt like that's what you were doing with what you were doing. I know last year was like the soft launch. Is there a plan to go with a full launch this year and bring people through? And if there is, what does that look like?
Yeah. So, man, you got good memory, y'all. We catching up. So as we catching up on this good live. So last year was a success. Actually, we had over 100 attendees at the conference, and we started at like 9 o'clock. And when I tell you, we was there till 9 o'clock, and almost all 100+ people stayed at the conference. The basis of the conference and the initiative was relationship building and those 7 pillars of language, food, culture, initiation process, spirituality, history, and food. And we were able to get at least through 4 of them, because the forum would be all day, because it was very intentional. I wanted us to have uncomfortable conversations, right, while sharing information on our similarities. We really got to the differences. There were moments where it was a little tensed, but we were able to turn it around, and everybody appreciated the entire process. It was beautiful. And so the call to action was a success. We did take a break this year. This year has been quite interesting in regard to everything that was going on. There's a lot of stuff that was going on in Kenya in regards to their government, which kind of slowed some things down on our end. So we put a pause on the journey back to Eden, but we are going to relaunch it next year with the city of Nairobi. You know, I had a couple of difficulties working with some government officials or offices, I would say, and I found it easier to start with the city of Nairobi. They've been super excited and supportive on the journey back to Eden, and so we look forward to relaunching the journey back to Eden next year with the city of Nairobi.
Fair. And for all of you who are unaware, we've reported on this on the platform, but there were some protests. If you guys might remember, I was doing a live stream with a news organization based in Nairobi, which is no longer on most of the platforms. But some of them, they talked about those, some of those protests, and President Ruto, to be respectful, actually fired his entire cabinet. And I know that Kea had been doing a lot of working with the government. You know, I know that most people go into these things and they kind of just do it on their own. And Kea was very intentional about working with the government to make sure that everybody was included in this process. And there are things that happen outside of your control, which I understand. And so that would change the trajectory of things, I'm sure, completely. Without getting too deep into that, I don't want to make this a political discussion. I know Kea still needs to work with them, but I know that happened. So I you know, just to kind of fill out that story for you all, you guys can imagine what difficulty that might be if you're working with a department and all the heads of those departments have been fired, right? I can imagine how that can be difficult. You know, so there were, and I think the question is meant to be how many countries. But it says continents here. But how many countries do you service other than Kenya? We'll change the word to countries, not continents. Unless the question is how many continents do you serve other than Africa? But I presume it's countries other than Kenya. That's my assumption.
So right now we just do Kenya, Belize, and Panama. I do have a network connection to Nigeria. I do tell people about Joe and Ghana because that's the only person I know and would trust. But that's about it for right now. We moving slow by slow. Listen, let me tell y'all, just doing Africa is a job, y'all. Trust me.
Just doing Kenya even, right? I mean, I can imagine.
I mean, that's what I mean. Kenya, that's what I meant. Just doing Kenya and being able to be that proficient and that well organized and have a seamless process, it's a lot. So we're working, but our goal is 63 countries. Our goal is 63 countries to offer these services.
So would that be the entire continent of Africa and the diaspora, or are you thinking certain countries in Africa and other countries in the diaspora? What are you thinking when you say 63 countries? Where are we talking about?
Oh, it's global. It's global. Because I want to diversify our clientele as well. I want to diversify our reach. While I was in Kenya, I had the amazing opportunity to meet with the ambassador of Romania. I'm not sure if you saw that on our IG, but she invited us to the embassy. I spoke with her, and Romania was one of the places that we wanted to go in and do business as well as travel and relocate. And they were super excited. And I told her, my whole goal is to get people who look like me into spaces we don't think we can get into. And so we have to diversify our reaches. He said, that's brilliant. And I totally understand it. And whenever you need Romania to help you, you're welcome. And so, yeah, no, it's Southeast Europe, which I love. Southeast Europe, Bulgaria, Macedonia, Greece, Turkey. We'll be going into Asia, Philippines, Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam. I love Cambodia. We'll be on the continent, mostly East Africa and Southern Africa, and maybe 1 or 2 countries in the west of Africa, America, Hawaii. We'll go into India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Nepal, everywhere, because we should have access to all of it.
Agreed, 100%. And not everybody feels like their calling is to move to the continent of Africa. So being able to service those folks who want to move to other places, I think is super important. So, you know, we kind of covered a broad range, but I do want to take it back to some of the services around travel. So, you know, we talked about the fact that you're known for your concierge service, the way you deal with your clients who are coming on these trips. I noticed that there are a couple different versions of the tours. There's a 7-day tour and there's a 12-day tour. And I see that there are tours in Kenya and there are tours in, tours in 2024 and tours in 2025. Can we talk a little bit about the difference between the 7-day and the 12-day tours so that people just can understand, like, you know, what do those 5 extra days give you? And if people are starting to think about, okay, what do I want to do? Look, I love Kea's energy. I like what she's talking about. I like all of it. But how do I make a decision between a 7-day tour and a 12-day tour? Let's talk about what the differences are between those two.
Okay, great. The 7-day tour, it gets you a 2-city tour. I'm a type of person, I don't like going to any country and just going to one place. I'm trying to cram as much as I can in one destination, right? And so that's what we want to do for our clients or our customers. Traverse culture is customer based. And so after doing an assessment of what clients say here and there, I always do an exit interview at the end of all of our experiences to get feedback in real time for our clients. And one of the things that they did ask is, okay, we love your 12-day, but what if we can't do a 12-day? Can we opt to do a 7-day? I was hell-bound on not doing 7 days because I'm like, you're going all the way to Kenya. Why would you go all the way to Kenya, like 20 hours, and go for 7 days? But not everybody has 12 or 14 days to take off. So in the 7-day, this is for those people who can't take a whole 14-day leave and they can only take 9 days. And with that, we try to put as much in that package, i.e. going to Nairobi and Mombasa in the same trip, making sure that you still get that real estate tour, you still get the signature marketplace, you still go to safari, you still do the CSR work, you still get the naming ceremony. So you get all of those things in the 7-day. Now the 12-day is going to give you 6 cities to go to. In 12 days. So that's the huge difference there. And then you'll have a more lengthier business orientation just because we have more days to play with, right? But the biggest thing for the 12-day is you get to go to 6 different locations, which gives you more options of where you may want to live or revisit or do business versus the 7-day.
Awesome. So I have 2 more questions before we close this out. So, and if there's anything else you want to add, please. But there, so one is I just lost my question. I should have wrote it down. So, okay. So the one question I had was the business orientation. Can you talk about what that looks like? You know, people have a lot of questions about investing in the continent of Africa, investing in real estate, starting a business, all of the things. Can you talk a little bit about like what do people get from those business orientations when they come with Traverse culture to any country that they're going to? I guess we're focused on Kenya for this conversation, but what does that look like?
Yeah, so typically what we do is we go through the options of what we provide first in terms of the business development packages that we offer. And through that, we have an investors report. We go through a feasibility study with you. We research the climate at the time to see, again, that's feasibility study, and we just talk about what that looked like if you were to use our services through our business development services. But then we do also, for the longer package, bring in government officials to speak with you. We bring in the real estate companies that we vend with as well to speak with you about if you don't want to go through us, purchasing directly through them and what that looks like. We also bring the bank institutions so that you can speak with them about the processing on that. We also get into some of the relocation options. So we bring in the healthcare, one of the representatives from the hospital to talk about the healthcare and our partnership with them and what that would look like. Healthcare insurance come on board. The driver school people come on board. You know, people who sell cars come on board. Like, just giving you all of that information in one place is kind of what that looked like.
Okay, cool. That's really helpful. I think that's important to know. Like, what does it look like tangibly? And then the last question is on the real estate side. I know you kind of, there's kind of two areas, right? You take people to look at houses that are being built and things like that. And then you also have the development that you're working on. Yes. I know that the development is on hold for right now. So if you want to talk about that, please do. But also, what does it look like? Because I remember your trip from last year. One of the things you were going to do is, I think people were going to be able to look at real estate in Mombasa and also in Nairobi, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe, so Correct. Can you talk through what kind of communities you look at? Like, what does that process look like so people can get an idea of what they can expect to see?
So typically when we do the tour in Nairobi, we go to the main areas that we relocate people, right? I know a lot of people is like, oh, you can find, you know, an apartment for $600 in Nairobi. Where? You're going to have to be on the outskirts. And if you are moving to a new country, you don't want to be on the outskirts when you just moved to that country. So 9 times out of 10, you're going to move to the expat areas like Kilimani, where I live right now, Leventon, Westlands, those areas, right? And then you get into the upper class like Runda and Karen. Those are quite expensive. And so we take you to those areas just to look at real estate options, but we do take you to the property that we're building, and they have options outside of Nairobi as well. And we kind of pass through and show you where you could possibly buy land that may be a bit affordable. Again, anything about an hour outside of Nairobi is going to cost. It's going to cost you money in terms of land. You got to go far, far, far out to get something close to $5,000. I mean, it's quite expensive. In regards to Mombasa, we typically stay in the areas that are building. We go to Vipingo. That's about 45 minutes from the north coast of Mombasa. We also stay in the north coast in Nyali area. A lot of people should know that area if you've ever been to Mombasa. And so we kind of keep within the area where expats will be, where you would be comfortable first and then venture out. I do not like putting people in a situation where you possibly are being set up for failure. We don't do that.
100%. I mean, look, this has been enlightening, and I hope for all who've been watching, you know, I think we covered a lot. We covered a lot of ground, and there are many more questions I have for you outside of this live stream, because I'm interested. But the last thing I'll ask you is this, right? You know, I was in Sierra Leone where we had what many people would consider political instability, right? There was an attempted coup. There was a shooting at a political party's headquarters, and even still to this day, the World Peace Index lists Sierra Leone about 25 places ahead of the United States in terms of safety.
Yep.
Earlier this year, Kenya did have some challenges with let's say peaceful protests that did not always end well for all involved. Mm-hmm. However, you are still moving full time and you are continuing to build your business in Kenya. Mm-hmm. Can you speak to why you still felt comfortable and confident that you could continue to help people move, and also why you're personally moving after that? Because I think there are a lot of people who hear one bad thing about something that happens in Africa, and they don't realize that you got O Block in Chicago, you got Opelika in Miami, you got Brownsville in Brooklyn. Like, we have all kinds of places where these things happen at an extremely high rate. People forget that. But I think it's important to kind of talk about that, because you are deciding to make the move yourself. You're not just helping people move, but you're moving yourself. So you talk about why you feel confident and comfortable making that move, considering what has been put out there on the news about what's happened in Kenya the last couple of months.
Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, we were moving a family right afterwards.
Okay.
We still moved them. This was in July. So to give it a little more context, the protest didn't happen in an isolated situation, the CBD area, not the entire Nairobi. So most Nairobians did not feel it. It exists. It was going on, and there were some gaps and troubles. Where we had some casualties, which we see that in the States for protest
all the time, every day.
You know what I mean? One thing I will say about Kenya and the Kenyan people is that they were able to show us a level of democracy, not what we call democracy, but a level of diplomacy. With standing fast on not signing the financial bill and holding it to their words. And I got to give the Kenyan government some credit that they did show some diplomacy and listened to the people. What made this quite interesting, that these were middle-class Kenyans. These weren't, these were middle-class Gen Zs and millennials outside protesting. And if you guys don't know, Kenya has a very strong middle class that's very visible. Okay, these people got money. Okay, but they're the backbone of this country. And so at the end of the day, he had no choice but to listen to the people of Kenya. But I think they handle it with grace. I think they handle it very well. I think that we all learn something from Gen Z and the millennials there on the ground. And it is still one of the safest countries in Africa, even after that.
Well put. I think you said it all. Unless you have any final words. Do you have any final words for the people who are watching? People are still just tuning in. So you guys are watching with Kea Waukesha Simmons, who's helped over 200 people travel to the continent of Africa. She's helped a bunch of families move. And we talked about all of that. So go back and watch from the beginning to make sure you're capturing all the information we talked about today. But is there any final words that you want to leave the people with before we go?
Yeah, so if you're interested in traveling to the continent and you want to use Kenya as your entry point, it doesn't have to be your end all be all, but your entry point into the continent. Please travel with us. Go to the website, look at some of the packages that we offer. And if you are looking to relocate again, you can also go to the website and book a consultation so that we can kind of look over your options and see what best fits you. And then we go from there. And then lastly, we will be doing a press release on our medical tourism program that we're going to be introducing to you all. But it's going to be quite interesting, y'all.
Dope. I love it. Okay, so with that, guys, I mean, we said it all. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you're notified every time a new video comes out. Share this with anybody you know who's been talking about going to Kenya, wants to visit Kenya, people who talk about investing on the continent. You know, all of us Pan-Africanists, we got a little bit of a Pan-African streak in us if you're watching this video. Make sure that you send them this video, and then, of course, you can send them the website that's in the link. I'm going to leave you guys with a video that I thought was incredible. I've been following PLO Lumumba for a while now. I posted his content all the time on the platform. You've seen it. And Kea, through the work that she's doing, has been introduced to a ton of incredible people, including PLO. So I want to leave this live stream with that video. And Kea, maybe if you could stay on just a little bit after.
I already know.
Okay, so then you can talk after. All right, guys. So thanks for watching. We will see you guys all on the next live.
Fellow Africans, Let us always give meaning to the immortal words of Kwame Nkrumah, that you are not an African because you are born in Africa, but because Africa was born in you. You who are out there in the United States of America, in the Caribbean, in Latin America, or wherever you are, Africa beckons you. It is a land of opportunity. Come to her and serve her in the knowledge that what you gain is out of the sweat of thy brow. But she welcomes you. Come back.